All right, we back podcast. Word on the streets, on Mad Talk TV, and to my right we have the legendary,
man.
Dan Albert. I know you don't want to hear that, but you're gonna hear it.
I didn't.
You're gonna hear it, man. You're gonna hear it. I'm sorry. We're gonna have a lot of stuff to say to you.
Man, thank you, man. Everybody been waiting for you to come on too, man. They been talking. When Coach Alberty coming on, he's finally here,
now.
man. He's finally here. How you doing, bro?
I'm blessed.
You blessed?
I'm blessed.
You definitely are, man. Like I said, I wanted to be the first one to ask you the first question. What is the toughest thing as being a coach at Edison High School?
To me, from being around coaching, I think it's the commitment that the kids look for. A lot of kids now really don't want to hear a bio, what you done, who you are, who life you experience. They want to know, how can you make me better? Mm-hmm. How can I be like one of the Edison alumni that's got his name up in the gym or has it in the locker room or some place where I can say, what is it going to take for me to get my name up there? And when you can install that into a young man at a young age, they believe you. And I was sitting out there listening to the coaches for the Ducks talk, and I was like, wait a minute, Tigers, Ducks, maybe one day they all will be Tigers. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the goal of the Pop Warner teams, is to eventually have a goal where they eventually will become teammates down the road and eventually may make it to the league together, and they can sit back and talk about the great times they had, instead of saying, well, such got in a little trouble, whoop, whoop, whoop. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about something that's positive. Mm-hmm. And I think when you install that to young youth these days, they really respect you a lot. Most kids, if they respect you, they'll run through a wall for you.
You're right.
Yes,
and this, the only difference I look at now with youth now is they're not students of the game. Mm-hmm. And when I refer to that is how many kids you drive down a neighborhood is outside playing basketball or playing football or playing tag.
That ain't happening.
Everything is inside games. Mm-hmm. So that's when I get on kids like, you're not a student of the game. Just like I watch basketball, a kid miss a free throw. Mm-hmm. He want to shoot a three-pointer, but you missed the free throw. Let's work on the free throw. Then we work on the three-pointer. Right. And I think society has caused that within our youth, that there's no outside games. Everything's inside.
Right. I really commend you on how you handle things at Edison, man, because, we kind of touched together when we went to Edison, right? And like you said, we were students of the game. So the history, I'm a history buff. I always like, the history of the school I went to, the cats, my heroes, and you might don't want to hear this. He was one of my heroes. Meat was one of my heroes, and we all went to school together. I know all these cats, right? And like you stated earlier, these kids want to know what you can do for them,
right?
You know what I mean? But how do you psychologically get into their head that, hey, you're in a place of competition. This is the place you want to be, right?
Right.
And you have the best guy, the best people, faculty in front of you for you to get there, right? Now, as far as the education part of this, and I know you're at the school, correct? You're still
yes,
at the
I am.
school, right? How's the education piece fits with your athletes at Edison?
Well, for me as a head track coach, that's very simple to me. Anyone know me? I'm an education guru. I believe it doesn't do any good to have a coach come out and says, how good is Tim? But most coaches saying, let me check Tim grades. And then when you got a kid that's 6'4", 280, but he has a 1.8, what can you do for that kid? So with track, I make a little different. What I have is every 2 weeks we have what's called I call it imaginary progress report.
Right.
But the catch to it is that's your ticket to get on my bus. So what I do, I'm looking at your grades in front of your peers, and if it's not to my standard, I say stand here. And if it's to my standard, you get on the bus. So what really is, you got 70 kids on the bus looking at this one kid like, why is Alberty talking to him? Because I feel as an athlete, we know who athletes are. Coaches will find you. With this new technology, I mean, it's very simple. Kid can make his own highlight tape up and sell himself.
Cut it up.
Sell himself. And, the ones where he got beat on, he ain't going to put them on. But the hard part, coaches are asking, how's the grades? And then they're talking about, how's the family? How's mom? How's dad? Is there a dad in the house? Is there a mom in the house? But when you have coaches like the Pop Warner coaches, those become their dads. Those become their uncles. When mom can't make it to the parent conference, these coaches go.
That's good.
And not just that, you have to have a standard. And I didn't know if they mentioned that. They have to have a standard to be on the team. at Pop Warner. They're checking grades at Pop Warner.
That's
a beautiful
Bro,
thing.
you
That's
don't
a
have the
beautiful
right
thing.
grades.
That's a
So what?
beautiful
You
thing.
cannot run everybody. Sit over here like Coach Shamu said earlier. Since you
Sit
don't
up
want to
over
do your
here.
homework, you sit over and do your homework. So you put the responsibility back in the kids. You don't put it on the mom and dad. And most kids will gravitate to it, and then there's some that don't.
Tell me something, Danny. What is one? Because he was my man. What's one of the track workouts you still do that you came up with?
Oh wow!
You know, you
I know you know.
You know, you
what?
come that question.
That's a really trick question. 'Cause it really depends on what kind of mood I'm in. and I learned that
Did
from
you take
an
him to the
OG.
hill?
You know what? It's funny you say that about the hill. We used to go to Hyde Park. But I was explaining to one kid one day, they were talking about, well, our track ain't this and our track ain't that. I said, you know what? If I was 20 years younger, I'll show you what we did at Edison when our
that
track
dirt
was,
track.
when our track was messed up. No,
On the street.
We took off running
Yeah.
down Walnut.
Yeah.
On the
And we would, dogs would chase us. Our coach name was Oscar Haynes.
Yes, he was.
yeah.
And he had an
Legendary.
El Camino. And he used to put a water jug in the back of the El Camino. And he would drive and we would run.
Yeah.
And we done been to every hood.
That's
Everyone.
Right,
Track
that's
in,
right,
and we would
that's
run all the way down to Annandale. And I don't know if you from Fresno, you
Yeah.
know Annandale,
Yeah.
at, you know, ain't
It's
nothing but
out there.
country.
That's country.
And
Yeah,
then we
that's
go
the
back
country.
down Annandale, and back in the day, there's a street called Fig, which is MLK. So
MLK
now we
now.
got to go back. We didn't ran where the dogs was at. Now we got to go back. And I was telling the kids, boy, if I did that now, boy, y'all parents would eat me alive.
Yes.
I said, and that was normal. Okay, y'all don't want to run on the track. Y'all don't want to listen. Haynes said, let's hit it. And we knew, and we got to go to Annandale. And that's one of the biggest stories I tell a kid. I said, y'all don't even realize how good y'all
No.
got it coming.
Yeah, they got it good,
We
man.
was come. I said,
man.
I never got a chance to run on turf till we got to the state.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah,
we ran on was dirt,
Dirt.
and mud, and
Man.
you get in the starting blocks and you run, they slip. And I said, you know, kind of like what the Ducks coach was saying. There's a point where each of us had a story, because I heard a pastor said the mistakes you make in your life may one day be your testimony.
Yes.
Hello.
Preach. Yes,
And the
preach,
biggest
bro.
thing I wanted to do is give back. And I always, Oscar Haynes was my mentor growing up, and Larry Willis, my
Coach
football
Willis,
coach,
yes,
and
Coach Willis, man, you
another
see,
man
yeah.
named Fred Clark. He was my soccer coach.
Yeah, that was Fred was mine too. Yeah.
And I always wanted to be like them, but they always used to encourage me, no, be better than us. Because if you better than us, that means we're successful. And you know, for the think of God, I've been working with Friendly Unified for 38 years.
Congrats, man.
And I've been coaching basically 38 years or longer. And it's a lot of kids that come through and you know, like, again, I repeat what the Ducks coaches said, some gravitate to what you're saying and some don't. And I learned from coaching, you can't save every kid. I thought I was like the Pied Piper of coaching, that any kid that came to me, I'm going to do whatever it takes. This is my boy. I'm going to take you home. I'm going to feed him. And some of the kids don't gravitate to that. So I've got a new philosophy. If I can save one, it was all
Your
worth
job
it.
is done. Yeah, your
Right.
job
It's all
is
worth
done.
it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, big bro. Let me ask you a question, man. Tell me a little bit about this track history at Edison, man.
Well, if you know anything
But
about,
we ain't gonna
hold
go back to
on.
the 60s.
I
We
can-
gonna go
No,
to the
you
70s.
no,
you
yeah.
got to go back to the 60s.
Okay, let's go back to the 60s.
So let's
man.
go back to 1962 when Edison won the state championship
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
with
Yeah.
three guys.
Three guys.
With three guys. See, nobody know that. There was a shot put disc thrower. His name was Stanley McDonald.
Yeah.
There was a hurler named
man.
Alvin Mann.
Alvin Man.
And I can remember, it was three of them. 1962. They were state champions.
Yes, sir.
And then the next time we came on the scene for track was in 1983, which
I
was
was
my
there.
first year coaching.
I was there.
And if you was in Bakerfield, the Valley Track meet, it was Todd Cowens,
Yeah.
Yes, shout
Icky
out to
Woods,
Icky
Bone.
Wood.
Larry
Walker.
Walker,
Darnell
and
Wheeler.
Darnell Wheeler.
Yes.
In 1983, we were state champions, where we barely beat Bakerfield, and there was a guy named Henry Thomas.
That's hard.
Henry
time.
Thomas was probably 6'2",
Henry the
about
Heat, man.
220, and boy, when he come, he was a train.
Yes,
Right.
Henry the Heat. Henry
And then
the Heat.
after that, you know, history speaks for itself. I was blessed in 2003 to take over the track program. And knock on wood, we was able to represent Fresno and Edison the last 16 years at the state championship, not just boys, but girls. And the different dialect that I brought to Edison's, we were always known as a relay school.
Yes,
Man,
yes,
Edison
yes.
got the baddest relay, but that's all they got. Well, just let everybody know and make it public. This year will be the first year we'll have 4 girls pole vaulting.
Pole vaulting.
I didn't study.
That is-
I said pole vaulting.
I said
It's the
pole
first
vaulting.
time
Yes, yes.
we ever had a girl in Edison history. We had several boys. Mike McGow was the only real official pole vaulter in Edison history. He, I want to say 68, 67, he jumped. And then a kid named Charles Chapman. We did it for, it was more like a I dare you thing.
Right.
And he pole vaulted. But this is the first year in Edison history we will have girl pole vaulters.
Hey, let me ask you a question. In '83, didn't Larry win the
400.
championship in the-
400,
Yeah,
400.
He won. He won 47-3 or something. Larry
Yeah,
Walker,
47-37.
That's my boy. Yeah, yeah. I was
And then,
there.
if I'm not mistaken, the relay team set a record, right?
40-83.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yes. We was there,
Right.
man.
You know what I
Cerritos
mean?
College, man.
Tell y'all
Like I say,
something, man. I had the honors to run with them cats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
man.
was
They
the
spent
fastest
that
cat.
at my
Right.
house, man. They
But,
stayed at
them
my house in
cats-
L.A.
Was so raw, and you forget Jeremiah Wheeler was in that bunch too.
And you know what's funny, but and what people fail to realize, out of all those guys, Jeremiah was the fastest guy out of
Right.
all of them. But he had a stumbling block of how to receive a baton and how to
Right.
give it.
Right.
And most people think on a relay you have to have the fastest for it. If you look at the whole dialect of the race, it's not who's the fastest team, it's who get the baton around the fastest.
Science.
So I can go back to the United States when we had the number 1, number 2, and number 3 fastest guy in the world, and Jamaica beats us every year.
Oh yeah.
Because we don't get the baton around. We run, but we don't get the baton around.
It's a science.
So that's very important that doing the relay.
Yes, yeah. Oh, definitely. Because you run first and beat me. If you don't have the baton in your hand, it doesn't mean anything.
Dan, he was a soccer player too, right?
Yes, I was.
One of the best. He man, one of the best. They
right.
told me,
That's
man.
right.
One of the best.
Yeah.
Man. Shit, man.
You know,
one of the best right there.
If you want to say, if you really want to put a tag on who I thought was one of the best that ever played soccer at Edison, or Fresno, it's a guy named Jeff Tapscott.
Yeah, Jeff Tapscott.
Jeff Tapscott. And then there was another guy we used to call him Little Rabbit.
Little Rabbit.
Brian
James
Alwine.
Yeah, Brian and James
Yeah.
Alwine.
But then we talk-
Kenny
we-
Travis
okay,
was
I was
good.
gonna say, what are you talking
Then
about Kenny Travis,
Well, see,
man,
as
you
I
know?
got into them, I became their coaches.
Yes, yes,
So they
yes,
was like
yes.
maybe 3 or 4 years older than me, but I was their coach because they never had one. So I got to see those guys. I can't think of his name. It was on the tip of my Martin. He was one of the Eric Martin.
Eric Martin.
Eric Martin
I
played.
seen Eric the other day. Yeah.
Eric
Yeah,
played.
he played. Yeah,
Eric was a
good.
great.
He's
That's
athlete.
why I was
He
surprised
athlete.
when he was in high school. He never played.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
He ended up playing football at Fresno State.
And on the show, I want you to come back because at one time, we had a lot of soccer players in West Fresno. And that
Yes.
kind of went away.
Yeah, we talked
And I
about
want to
that.
bring that back because I want to have some cats on the show that I know that they took state championships.
Yes. Yes, they did.
And we had one of
We were state champions.
Yeah, Kevin Williams actually was
Yeah.
the
Well, I'm
Big
gonna give a
West.
shout out to my partner George Travis, man. The boy
Oh, George still playing,
boy,
huh?
Boy still playing. Nigga still playing soccer. Nigga 50 years old, still playing soccer. Shout out to you, George Travis.
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
he
you
is.
was in that top 5. I ain't gonna tell
Right.
you know, who talked about the top 5. You was in
Right.
top 5.
Right.
Shout out to you, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, real shit, man.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Danny. Like I was saying earlier, I commend everything you do at Edison.
Without
Thank
doubt,
you.
man.
Thank
Without
you.
doubt, big bro.
And you say you got 3 pole vaulters, huh?
Man.
4.
4.
Four,
Yeah.
man.
Tell me,
All
Danny,
young, all in the
You
class.
actually got a pole vault pit. I was
Okay,
okay,
see.
what a pole vault pit. Why they gonna practice that, big bro?
We're working on getting a pit.
Okay, yeah.
We had the
yeah.
facilities. When the track was built in 03, 04, they bought the standards, that's the pole and all that, but they didn't buy the pit.
Been by the pit.
Okay.
So now,
Do you go out to city
some
or
help.
Fresno State?
what we can do, we're going to eventually probably end up going out to Hoover High School.
Okay.
And that guy, the coach there, will coach the kids up from because not just Edison, we got other kids from different schools. I mean, everyone wants to be pole vaulters now,
What grade are the
Wow.
girls in?
freshmen and sophomores.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's
You
beautiful.
can have them for
Yeah.
a couple of years.
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Doing a state meet, what's like the point system? First place get how many points?
They get 10.
Oh, first place.
10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1.
Okay. I always wanted to.
Yeah.
Know that.
I'm glad we still have the state meet here in our
Love
valley.
it. I'm glad it's in Fresno.
Yeah.
As
Perfect.
a coach, I like it because it's homegrown. But if I was an athlete, I wouldn't because we never get to travel because, you know, when you go to L.A. or the Bay Area to run, you leave a day early, you get to hang out, you know, make a vacation. Sort of kind of. But now at home, we don't get nothing. We don't even get a van to school say, Coach, get there the best way you can.
But let me ask you a question, Danny. You coach track. What other sports have you coached?
At Edison, I've been able, again, to be blessed to coach football. I've coached all 3 levels. I coached basketball, 85, 86, 87. Edison Valley champions.
Charlie Rose?
Yes,
Charlie Rose?
yes. I was able to coach Charlie Rose
on the first show.
Charlie Rose, man. Shout out my boy Charlie Rose.
I've coached soccer. I was able, it's crazy we talking about this. I was able to coach 3 years girls soccer. The year I decided to step away, which was last year, they ended up winning Valley Championship.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And,
wow.
You know, and like
wow.
I tell anyone, my first love is soccer. Because that actually saved me from the streets. And there was a guy named Mr. El Goyago. I'll never forget that guy. That guy came, he was a foreigner, and he had came to school called Lincoln Elementary, and you know, we from the hood, the projects, and he said there's a new game called soccer. And we all looking at each other like, soccer? How you do that? So the first thing the man looks at us, he said, take your shoes off. And you know us from hood, man, I'm not taking my shoes. Somebody gonna steal my shoes. So what we did, we said, okay. He said, but if you're gonna play this game, you gotta take your shoes off. And he taught us how to kick a ball with no shoes on. Yeah, with no shoes on. Yeah. Against the little wall right there at Frank A's where the restroom's at out there.
Right.
And we used to kick against that wall every day. And then it got to the point where we said, you know, we're kind of good in this. So a lot of us would get together and we would practice with no shoes on.
Right.
Then as we got better, we was able to get shoes. And
That's right.
you know, the rest speak for
I
itself.
was telling KT, man, not that long ago, I said, man, I need to get a soccer team in West Fresno. It'll be, and if I can get someone to help me with that, you know, youth soccer team and travel the state of California, it'd be powerful because believe me, Fresno was one of the best. Do we need to go to a break right now? All right, this is Word on the Streets with, like I said, a legendary Dan Alberty to my right, Hot Rod.
Thank you for coming on the show, bro. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mad Talk TV.